What is the cheapest thing you have seen someone do? Back when my brother and I were young kids, we took a trip to the zoo with my grandma. When my brother and I got hungry, we asked her to buy us food. Since everything at places like these is extremely inflated, my cheap grandma refused to buy us normal food. She proceeded to walk up to the stand where you can buy crackers to feed the goats, and bought my brother and I a handful of crackers for $2. Horrific experience. And this is why you bring your own food when you're cheap. Guy invites people out to go four-wheeling with him. Takes his motorhome along to the campground. Some people sleep in the motorhome. Some in tents. Brought their own four-wheelers. At the end of the weekend he presents everyone with bills for staying at the campsite, which when totaled has him making money on the weekend. Got offended when the next time he invited people they made their own arrangements. So if he didn't tell me in advance that I'd need to pay, no way in heck I'm paying. He can take it to court if he wants, though I doubt he'd pay up for lawyers' fees. Complained that a steak wasn't good quality, too fatty. Manager provided another steak and was taking away the other steak. They stopped the manager and asked if they could box it up for them so they could take it home for their dog. They do have a dog and I believe that's what they were going to do, but the manager had this incredulous look in his eyes. I am a server. This happens way too much and it drives me insane. Buddy of mine from high school texts me to go to a new brewery that just opened up. We get there after he asks for a ride, then asks me to get his first round. Okay, fine. He starts telling me how he lost his job and he doesn't want to spend money unnecessarily. Next thing I know, he's buying a hat from the brewery that equivalent to 2 beers. He took a Uber home. Had a friend that would pay for his bar tab using all of our tips. He was caught after our regular waitress got fed up with not getting much of a tip after having a full table all night and having a chat with us. We were all good tippers so it made no sense. The next time we went to the bar we all threw our money on the table as usual, all except one, Dave. We had never really watched before because we didn't think we had to. His excuse was that our tips always more than covered his bill as well as leaving some extra for the waitress. We stopped inviting Dave out. Friend of mine would join us to dinner to let's say Applebee's. He'd order a side dish or nothing at all, then wait till everyone's done eating, and say hey you going to finish that burger fries chicken to everyone who had leftovers, then make himself a full plate meal with everyone's leftovers and eat it. My missus went out for dinner with a friend she'd not seen for a while. It was a local pub that did a buy one get one free offer. When it was time to pay she said oh no, mine's the free one. My cousins didn't know that ketchup and mustard came in bottles because my uncle would just steal packets from McDonald's to use at home. They were by no means struggling. He was just very, very cheap. So cheap it was an art form. He also drank creamers at diners and took all the jam on the table, except for grape because he found out somewhere that grape was the least expensive of the jams, so he left it to be spiteful. Too bad no one ever pointed out that it would be cheaper for him to stay at home and eat. My friend in college would never buy a chaser for his liquor and always used other people's or whatever he could find in the refrigerator of a given party. Needless to say, he drank a ton of milk with his whiskey during our time as undergrads. At my hardware store I've processed a return for a single screw for 7 cents. He drove in, parked, walked up, waited in line, and had his receipt ready to go, all for 7 cents. He made a special trip, with forethought, for 7 cents. That's not even cheap, that's expensive. It costs me more than 7 cents to start my vehicle, much less drive to a hardware store. Not as bad as a lot on here, but I moved in with a friend and we went grocery shopping together the first time. He refused to buy hot dogs at $0.88 because frick the man and how dare they because he saw them a week earlier for $0.78. Just sounds funny. Went out for lunch with a few friends. Restaurant refused to split the bill for us, so everyone had to figure out how much they owed and pay a portion. One guy forgot about his beverage and dessert, didn't account for sales tax, and only put like $half tip on it. I was the last person to pay, ended up paying nearly double what my meal cost just to cover what the table owed. I was a waitress for a minor league baseball team where one guy left early, leaving $70 just dangling off the check. I actually figured out who the team captain was. I ask him what I should do and the team agrees to split his bill across them all, but he demands the receipt so that douchebag can pay us all back in full. This was, apparently, not the first time he'd done this. One of my college roommates would take double stuffed Oreos out of our other roommate's package and replace them with his own single stuffed Oreos. I was giving a dude a ride home one time and all of a sudden he yells, "Dude, pull over real quick," and I pull over. Confused and a little freaked out, he runs up to some random person's front porch, steals some cigarette butts out of their ashtray and comes back. Says to me, "Bet you didn't see those over there, did you?" All proud of himself. I wanted to throw up, lol. I used to live in a shithole in my 20s where the neighbors would jump the fence at night and empty any ashtray or drink left outside and then disappear with it. They weren't cheap though, just human garbage. Worked as a waiter in college. Table of 12 people. They decide to pay separately. I offer to split up the check for them. I honestly don't mind splitting checks. Any server that has used Aloha for pose knows it's easy. Dude at head of table goes, "Alright, it's $500, we got 12 people, everyone throw in 50. I figured they were a work group on per diem. My mind goes 12 times 50, that's 600, not bad, 20% tip. He scoops up the cash and drops his credit card. I drop off credit card for him to sign. Butthole leaves me $497 on 497. He made $50 off me. Guy got a free dinner. $50 and United Miles. Yes, I gave good service. No restaurant didn't allow auto gratuity on large parties, and if I had questioned him about not tipping I would have gotten in trouble. My wife and I go to garage sales most weeks. One time I saw the guy trying to get a purse knocked down from a quarter to a dime for like 2 minutes. I mean, I haggle fairly hard, but that was the most insane thing I've ever seen. I've hosted a crap ton of garage sales over the years. Anyone that's tried to haggle for a dollar or less item, I ask them to pick 5 more dollar or less items and take them for $1. I'm trying to get rid of stuff, not make an extra couple cents. Works every time. When you smoke enough cigs you can roll the shorts into a new cig, and that's a second generation. When you have enough shorts from second gen cigs you can roll a third generation. I once saw an old, obviously homeless guy picking butts off the ground to smoke. I told him to throw them out as I tossed him a 1-stroke 2-pack of smokes. I hope he enjoyed those cigarettes. My neighbor hooked a regular garden hose up to our house before it was in our possession and illegally got water for years, but my parents put a stop to it like a year after they bought the house. My partner found the old hose and threw it back on her property where it is now being taken over by blackberries. She still is getting water illegally from our other neighbor's well. My parents dug this house a new well, so we have all the water to ourselves now. No more sharing with cheap old hoarders. You should tell the other neighbors. She's literally stealing from them. My GF's ex would bring a slice of cheese to work to put on the hamburgers he'd buy for lunch. He thought paying extra for cheese was crazy when he could buy a huge package from Costco for a few cents per slice. He wasn't wrong, just cheap. My husband's ex would make him pay her back each time she bought him something, even if it was a bottle of Coke. $3.50 here in Aust, and even if he didn't ask for it in the first place. If he didn't pay her back, she'd have a crying tantrum. She was in her mid to late 20s. My aunt is a freaking multi-millionaire who owns apartment buildings in Menlo Park, CA. She is a notorious cheapskate. Just 2 days ago she gave my daughter a used sippy cup complete with teeth marks that she had undoubtedly picked up at a garage sale or thrift store as a first birthday present. In the trash it went. In NYC, they made it so if you want a new Metro card it's $1. This reduced Metro card littering. You used to see piles of discarded Metro cards at train stations. Now it's hard to find a single discard one. After the $1 fee, I saw a man rummaging through a garbage can at a train station to find a Metro card to save $1. He eventually found it, but his hands and clothing were so dirty after that. LOL, I still see a stupid amount of them wedged in between the metal barriers. I went over a friend's house for dinner in elementary school, and at the end of the meal the dad told everyone to dump whatever juice or milk they didn't finish back in the original jug to put back in the fridge. I felt like gagging after having drunk their Sunny D. I know people eat it, but I remember getting invited to a friend's house for dinner and then when it was served it was pigeon. I was like 13, so I faked a call from my mum and said I had to go home as she was sick. Instead of buying actual ceramic dishware and metal cutlery, they bought a big stack of paper plates and stole massive amounts of plastic cutlery and napkins from takeout restaurants. While they could always get more cutlery and napkins, they would actually rinse the paper plate after each use until it degraded and was unusable. The paper plates were also hidden in their room somewhere so that no one could steal and use them. Granted, this was in a house with 7 guys who constantly left their dirty dishes in the sink so that someone had to do dishwashing if they were wanting to eat on a clean plate. But that was some serious dedication to not wanting to do actual dishwashing. I can actually sympathize with this. Not reusing the crap. I never did that, but at one point I had 2 roommates that were absolute slobs and never did clean up. After about 2 weeks of cleaning up after their asses every time I wanted to eat, I just said frick it and started using paper and plastic. You know how Chinese restaurants give you hot tea for free? My uncle used to ask for as much hot tea as possible, then put it into thermoses to keep for later. It's just hot water. The restaurants buy the tea leaves in bulk and refill the pot with water. My dad used to buy drink tea a lot when I was a kid. Even his fancier tea leaves last forever. My friend, when he goes to movie theater, is waiting in a bathroom for 30 minutes, locked in, feet on the toilet bowl, so he can watch the next movie for free. I always got a kick out of people that rely on condiment packets from restaurants to replace buying said condiments. Had one friend that literally had Tupperware bins full of ketchup, relish, mustard, mayonnaise, and of course Taco Bell hot sauce in their fridge. Refused to buy condiments. He'd just get a big handful every time he went out to eat, which was a lot. I mean, I get the logic and all, but a bottle of ketchup was like $1 back then. How much money are you really saving? Didn't help that I worked fast food and we'd get crap for burning through too many boxes of condiments. I have drawers of these guys, but only because when you go backpacking or camping or whatnot, it is not nice to have a lightweight teeny package on you. Buy me a burger, son combo, plus small fritter split among 5 of us, and a can of root beer they already had in the car for my birthday. Thanks auntie and uncle. My evil stepmother owns a restaurant and attached convenience store. I will give a few examples of her cheapness. 1. If she eats breakfast at a restaurant with my dad, she will steal all of the little jams and jellies that she can get. Also sugar packets. These get tossed in her purse and used at her restaurant. 2. I have seen her eat leftovers from her customers' plates when she is clearing the tables. 3. She has charged more for soft drinks if they are taken from the restaurant. This is because she loses the deposit, $0.10. 4. She is diabetic. Usually when you get a new blood glucose meter, it is free because you have to buy the strips. She found out that the glucometer comes with 10 free lancets to poke your finger for the blood sample. She tried to get another glucometer just to get more free lancets. If you buy the lancets, they are about $10 for 100. 5. She is originally from another country and still has family there. A couple of times a year she sends a box of stuff over for her family. She always sends clothing over. This is clothing that she has worn, but she leaves the price tags on so that her sisters think she is sending new clothes. Her last box wasn't quite full enough, so she took the half-empty bags of cereal from the restaurant. Think cornflakes and Rice Krispies, that will definitely be stale when they arrive. 6. When my son was little, he accidentally left his wallet in my dad's car. She was the only person who could have had access. When he got the wallet back, it was empty. It had his name written on the wallet in marker, so it's not like she didn't know it was her step-grandson's. 7. She got access to my gasoline rewards card. Basically, you get points for every liter of fuel and can redeem them for convenience store items. She used up about $500 worth of points on stuff for her own store. She didn't tell me that she had done it. Next time I used the card and saw it was cleaned out, I asked the gas station staff what had happened. I was told that she told them it was okay with me and no problem at all. 8. When my sister was growing up with this step monster, my sister had a leather jacket she wanted to sell. Step monster wanted to give it to her sister. A deal was negotiated for $50. Step monster never paid and sister got my dad involved. Stepmonster claimed the deal was for $5 and my dad got mad at sister for lying. So Stepmonster never had to pay a penny. Multiply all of the above for the last 27 years and you have a real contender for the cheapest person in North America. One of my friend's mom mixes Coca-Cola with sparkling water to make it last longer. Sparkling spring water is dirt cheap here. My brother does things like this, but not because he's cheap. Most soda and juice is too sweet for him, so he cuts it with water to make it more palatable. Come to work early to brew his morning coffee because he didn't have to pay the electricity bill at work. He would also shave at work on work time, sullying our one shared bathroom. We nixed that fast. Bathing in Lake Superior. It's cold, with eco soap to save electricity and water going into his septic tank's longevity. Also encouraged yellow lettered mellow to save the septic. When I'd stay there they'd encourage 3-minute showers. When they stayed at my home they'd take 30-minute, steaming hot showers. Real environmentalists. Never saw it personally, but on this show this lady would save the bath water, making everyone in the family use it, from her to the son to the father, and once everyone was done she would clean the dishes in it. Another lady on the show used one light bulb throughout the entire house and made her husband take like 5-minute showers. No more than that, she would talk to him through a baby monitor making sure he got out. Ex-landlady and her 2 adult live-at-home sons had a new septic system installed before I rented a room there. They insisted I put my used toilet paper in a plastic bag next to the toilet. I tried to explain that they don't have to do that anymore since they have a new 3-tier system. Smelled terrible, moved out for that and other reasons. I had a roommate. One day we're at a gas station. My total is like $8.26. I had $8 and a $100 bill. They couldn't break the 100, so I asked him for 26 cents. 3 weeks later when rent was due he gave me his portion of the rent minus 26 cents. I literally had a jar in the living room full of daily pocket change. He could have grabbed it any time or more and I wouldn't have cared, but never said a thing. That was the cheapest thing I've ever seen. That's freaking petty. Late, but I was once eating at a Costco's outside food court, where they have ketchup, mustard, relish and onion dispensers. I saw a minivan pull up to the curb. A woman hopped out with a large Ziploc and filled it with chopped onions. She ran back to the van and left. Cheap and lazy. Onions aren't expensive in the least. I've seen this as well. An old Chinese woman filling a gallon Ziploc bag from the onion grinder thing and then bailing. Actually more than once. Come on now. When my brother was in college, my parents paid for him to live in an apartment with a couple of his friends. When rent was due, he told his friends to give him their share of the rent money and kept it for himself. My brother is a spoiled brat. That's messed up. Roommate in college would wash out his condoms and re-roll them. Dude fricked a different girl every day. Used 1 condom a week. There are so many places where someone could get condoms for free that I don't even consider this cheap. More so gross, unsafe, and unnecessary. Went to Subway with a co-worker. I had a coupon that if I bought a sub I got 1 for free. I was expecting us to split the difference of 1 sub, but he expected to get a free sub. I didn't really say anything cause it was just a few bucks, but it just blew me away and I avoided going out to lunch with him again. I think I've been that friend before: it kind of confused me though. Someone asked if I wanted to go to a concert since it was BOGO free, and I didn't particularly know this artist, but I said yes since I thought they were offering it for free. He had already bought the ticket before he asked me to. I ended up paying him half when he asked. Some friends and I were hanging out and split a fifth of Jack. I think it's about $20-25 bucks, so between 4 people, it wasn't that bad. One friend only had a couple bucks, like 2 or 3, but we didn't really mind. We just wanted to drink. The friend who pitched in the least went to make a second or third drink when one of our friends stopped him, claiming that he didn't contribute as much as we did, so he shouldn't be able to drink as much. Technically, he wasn't wrong, but the rest of us didn't even think about that. We just wanted to drink and have a good time. God, I had a friend like that in high school with weed. One time we were smoking in a rotation and he said that since it was his weed in the bowl he gets first hit and then an extra hit in between every other person in the rotation. The best part was that we had our own weed there. He just happened to load that specific bowl. A good friend of about 8 years ghosted me because he owed me $30. I met him months later and asked him about the money. He told me, "We don't see each other anymore. Why should I pay you back the money?" On one hand it was sad, because we had some good memories. On the other hand it was $30 well spent. $30 to get a lesson on character is cheap. Good attitude on you given the circumstance. You don't know PPL until money gets involved. My boss is gonna spend a few $1,000s on knee surgery. He spent an hour with my 2 co-workers and me, making us watch him not be able to screw together these old wooden crutches because he didn't want to waste money on new crutches. My mother went all the way back to the grocery store after discovering her 8-piece bucket of fried chicken only had 7 pieces. LOL, she made us drive back almost 30 minutes in rush hour traffic for a chicken wing. It's the principle, I can still hear it from the back seat. She could have just called and told them. They probably would have done some type of compensation and mom would still have her principal. I knew someone who used duct tape to cover a giant hole in the back of their car's window. Months later, I wanted to buy the car and get it fixed, but when we checked there was so much moist coming into the back that there was mold growing on the seats. So much moist. MMMM. I knew someone who used to take his laptop phone into work to charge at the office rather than charging them at home and raising the electricity bill. He also lived on potatoes and wouldn't turn the lights on before dark. Made the same amount of money as me. Wasn't struggling. Just an odd duck. Had a roommate that ate a lot of ramen, which is no big deal on its own. He was pretty proud of his $0.25 or less meals. However, he ate it raw because it was quicker that way. Oh, and he completely smothered the uncooked ramen in whatever condiments he could find in the fridge. His favorite was my ranch. Took me a couple of weeks to figure out why I was going through a bottle of ranch so quickly. Was sitting down at a table for lunch between classes, and this bastard is making his super cheap lunch. He goes to the fridge, pulls out the ranch clearly marked with my name, and pours about a $1.50 worth of ranch on his raw ramen. All while bragging about how cheap his lunch is again. He was making at least twice the money that I was at this time. There were only 2 of us in the apartment. I'm all for sharing condiments, but dang, ranch ain't cheap, yo. I posted this on another question, but here goes. We have family friends over for a little BBQ. Just friends and family, no big deal. Obviously, there were paper plates and plastic forks. Well, after everyone was done, my aunt proceeded to walk around and collect the plates. Everyone thought she was being nice and just picking them up. Hours after everyone had left, we realized she started washing the paper plates and saved them for next time. Oh, she'll also buy a shirt or shoes, probably no more than $15. She'll keep the tags on and wear the item, then goes back and returns them just to get her money back. I understand people don't have the luxury of buying expensive things, tuxedos, dresses etc. So they rent, but if you're making a big fuss over $10 shoes at Walmart, there is issues. You're not truly cheap until you buy shirts at Goodwill, like me. Oh, and wait for the 50% off day. My grandfather used to dry out tea bags and reuse them. My brother and his ex-wife used to take the kids out for a carvery meal, load their plates up high, then ask the server for a couple of plates for the kids, then unload all the extra food onto them for the kids to eat effectively free. For 2 weeks I could only afford a couple of loaves of white bread. I got some free ketchup packets from Burger King and ate ketchup sandwiches until I finally got my paycheck. It's depressing typing that out. Gotta do what you gotta do. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.